Hi all, today I'm going to explain about basic authentication in Pega. Authentication in Pega platform makes sure that users whose identity has been verified can access your applications. Let's start with Gmail example. Gmail page allows you to either log in with the credentials or you can also create an account by registering when you're signing up first. Signing up first means you are registering your details along with the first name, last name, user ID, and password. Once you register your account, the user ID and password credentials will be saved in the Gmail server. Next time, when you're planning to log in into the Gmail account, just you can click on the sign in button and you can provide your credentials. These credentials are validated against the Gmail server. When they are validated successfully, you'll be able to log in into the Gmail and start accessing the emails of the Gmail account. Otherwise, you have to sign in into the account so that first time users, the database should have the registration of the Gmail user ID and passwords. And coming to the Pega also, I'll try to compare the Gmail example with the Pega also. In Pega also, if you want to log in into the account, like how am I able to log in into the Pega application? How am I able to log in into the Pega application? I have my credentials. I'm able to give my credentials and I'm able to give the username and password. These credentials are validated towards the operator ID table, which is of the Pega database. These credentials are validated successfully, then only you'll be able to access the Pega applications. Here, Pega acts as a identity provider. It's a very basic authentication step available within the Pega. With the help of this basic authentication step, with the help of the passwords, you are able to log in into the Pega and you're able to access the application. Similar way, there are scenarios that authentication used as a service. For example, Gmail, Gmail credentials can be used not only for accessing the emails, these Gmail credentials can also be used to access there are different websites are there like Spotify and some other websites like Amazon Prime. So Pinterest, all these websites can be accessed with the help of a Gmail. You don't need to have their own organization email account for accessing that websites. So that accounts can be accessed very easily with the help of the Gmail account. The Gmail account acts as an identity provider here. The service providers are the Amazon website, Spotify account, and different websites. So service providers, they'll take the help of the Google and ask them to authenticate on behalf of them so that users who are trying to access the Spotify application or Amazon application, just they'll use these Google credentials to log in to allow access to their accounts. They're blindly believing the Spotify, Amazon, all these websites. They're blindly believing the Google and they're trying to take the help of the Google credentials, Gmail, and trying to access their accounts. So they're trusting them. Their authentication mechanism, they're trusting it. You might get a doubt, why can't they have their own database and use the database as a mechanism for authenticating the users? Like how we are doing it in Pega. If you want to access the Pega application, all the operator IDs are stored in the admin operator ID table. With the help of this login credentials, you can log in into the Pega. These credentials are available in the Pega database. Why can't every website like Spotify, Amazon, Pinterest, all these websites, why can't they maintain the user information in their own database and use the credentials for logging into the accounts? For example, you'll take an organization like Religer. Religer is an insurance company. This insurance company will try to uh, authenticate employees, authenticate employees through this authentication as a service. Why? Religare employees are totally around 1 lakh employees. If Religare employees are given access to each and every application with a password, it's very difficult for each and every employee to remember for multiple applications, because Religare will have multiple applications. And the passwords will be more to remember, and it will be risk of losing a password will be very high. Instead of this, all this Religare employees information will be maintained in the identity management directories. This identity management can be used as an authentication mechanism to allow the Religare employees to access different applications with single user ID. They don't need to have any passwords. So if you see this diagram, there are different web applications are there. These web applications, Pega web application, Salesforce web application, and Microsoft web application, they are trying to take the identity providers help to access the enterprise directory services, their directory services using these protocols. SAML is securitization markup language, OpenID protocols, OAuth2 protocols, lightweight directory access protocol. These are the protocols which is used to access the directory mechanisms and authenticate different users using these protocols, so that there is no need to maintain the passwords for each and every application. One single user can access multiple applications without remembering any passwords, without risk of losing the passwords. You can do it with the help of single user ID. And coming to this, you might get a doubt that what is this basic authentication then? You are discussing about IDP. Here, we thought of discussing about the basic authentication. So we will discuss briefly in the next video about the identity authentication. Let's discuss more on the basic authentication now. Basic authentication is currently we are logging into the Pega application with the help of a credentials, and these credentials are validated against the operator ID table. And this kind of authentication process is called as basic authentication. This authentication step is available within the Pega itself. Pega is not using any authentication services like SAML protocols or this OpenID protocols, are different protocols for logging into the Pega environments. They are having basic authentications. So you might have a query that so what are the different URLs? What is being mentioned here? What is this PR servlet? All this. I'll explain more briefly about the PR servlet. How the authentication mechanism works also I'll explain about it. PR servlets. Servlets are the Java programs which will extend the capabilities of a server. It means it will take the incoming request, do some computations in the server, and build the responses. What I mean to say is, for example, if I take this servlet, till servlet only I'll take it, go to the incognito window, go and click on enter. Then you can see after PR servlet, there are app default, be some different kinds of mechanisms has been constructed. I mean, like there will be a different response URL has been constructed. I have given only request as PR servlet. This response has been constructed. How this has been constructed with the help of the servlets. PR servlet will extend the capabilities of the server. It will build the outgoing responses with the help of the incoming request. That manipulations, that computations, all the responses how to be built, that will happens in the server with the help of the servlet. Servlet will take care of building these responses in the server. Once this responses has been built, you might get a doubt that where these PR servlets are being stored. PR servlets are stored in an XML document. If you go to this personal edition, there you can find this PR servlet information. Go to the personal edition, PRPC personal edition. Go to here, Tomcat server. Inside Tomcat server, you can see WebINF. You can see web apps. In web apps, you can see PR web. In the PR web, you can see WebINF. in the web.inf, in this web.xml, you can find out that PR servlet been available. Web.xml is an XML document that contains the servlet's information. This servlets also available, and also you can find the PR basic authentication. This is actually PR basic is authentication is enabled default for the personal edition, and it has been commented out here because this is a default mechanism for the personal edition. So once it is been used, once it has been servlet has also been mentioned, PR servlet, you can see that where the PR servlet has been available. This is available in the PR web standard servlet. Web standard servlet. Once it has been available in the web standard servlet, these responses will be built with the help of this web standard servlet name, which is and also PR servlet. The proper responses will be built with the help of this servlets, which is available in the web.xml document. Just for our information, we are nothing to do with this. Just for our information, for our knowledge, I'm trying to give this information. And the responses has been formed. You might get about how you can log in into this particular Pega, how you can launch the Pega. You'll have the browser. If you try to trace the browser request types, you can see some activities which will be used for launching the designer studios and launching the portals, and different activities which will be used for launching the portals. All this information you can see when you try to trace the browser. So I will only keep one session open. I'll try to trace it. When I'm tracing it, I'll trace it with the help of the remote. You can trace any browser requester types from your machine itself with the help of the remote tracer option. You can see in the remote tracer, there will be a browser requester which will be starting with the H, and there will be no operator ID mapped to that particular browser requester. Because currently we didn't authenticate a particular browser requester, so there will be no authentication, and it will be no operator ID will be mapped for that browser requester. It will be blank. Currently, we will check where is the browser requester. Here, not seeing that. Okay, what I will do is I'm not able to see this browser requester. Once again, I'll close this. I will try to open, and I will open the remote tracer. I will see browser requester anywhere it is there. Another browser requester. Browser requester. Only I'm able to see the batch requesters. Not able to see the browser requester. Might be what I'm suspecting is we have to provide the login page once again. Then only I can see this. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to close this tracer. Once again, I'll open this page. New incognito window. I will go and paste this Control V. This is available here. Now I'll go and click on the tracer. So if you see this tracer, you'll go and see in the remote tracer. See, this is a current browser requester. It will be mapped to the operator ID cg@pega pro. And I need to see similar kind of browser requester with no operator ID mapped to that. So currently, where is a browser requester? See, you can see a browser requester which is not mapped to any operator ID. I'll click on OK, and I'll try to log in by giving the valid credentials. Then you can see a set of activities which are being called for building the portals or for launching these portals. So if you go and see here, I have given a wrong operator ID. So that's why it will not call the activities like initial profile setup, application setup, show desktop activities. These are the activities which will be called to launch the portals and launch the harness which are mentioned in that specific portals. Now these are not being called. Now I'll try to give proper credentials. So if you see this, all the activities will be called. So if I click on this, first activity will be initial profile setup. initial profile setup, initial profile setup. Is it the login is completed? Yeah, login is completed. I can pause this. I can go and see this. So initial profile setup is not appearing. Let's see what is the reason why it is not appearing. Go and see the settings. Activities are there here. But initial profile setup is not appearing here. Let's browse it through here. Initial, see, if you see this, there is an initial profile setup is being called here. Initial profile setup. Afterwards, application setup activity will be called. Application setup activity will be called initial profile setup. Afterwards, application setup. Where is this application setup? Application setup activity is being called. This after this application setup, you can see show desktop activity. You can also click on this particular activities and you can see what are the activities, how these activities are being called, all this. So afterwards, I mean, like what are the logic is there in this side, this activities you can see in this activities also. Application setup. After the application setup, you can see the show desktop activity will be called. This show desktop activity is responsible for launching the harness mentioned in the corresponding portal. So if you see this show desktop activity is being called. So this is a show desktop activity. This has been called to launch the harness specified in the portal. You can see in the access group, the portal, what is being called. This portal will be launched. It's a portal. Portal contains the harness. That harness will be launched when you try to log in. This show desktop activity will help in that. And also you can see that web login. This is a HTML control. This will be responsible for default login screen. I mean, like before logging into the Pega, for example, if I go and log off this, the basic login screen will be like this. You can also customize it based on your company's logo by customizing this web login HTML control. You can customize it and you can save as this and you can customize it. So that will help you to form a customized login screen. Okay, that's all about the basic authentication. In the next class, I'll explain about the single sign-on authentication. Thanks for listening.